What's going on, everybody? We are back. We've got the Club and Sub Podcast, episode number 151. Tonight, myself, John, who you can find on Twitter at MMA Fox, and Lags, who you can find on Twitter, Danny_Lags. We'll be breaking down UFC Noche, which I thought was in Mexico, but apparently it's in Las Vegas, so it is not in Mexico, even though they are celebrating Mexican Independence Day, I believe.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm excited to break this card down. Guys, if you like the show, drop a like and subscribe. Really helps us out. And yeah, first things first, we did do a giveaway last week. And that giveaway was if you shared the podcast from Twitter or from YouTube to Twitter and you tagged me and Lags and shouted at the show, you got entered into it for a chance to win $150. As you can see, the wheel is spinning. We only got 10 people to share it, which tells me, as I said to Lags, we really must have the richest following of any podcast out here. Like, we're not giving away $1,000, but like $150 isn't much to sneeze at either. Was expecting a little bit higher participation, but I do respect and thank the 10 people that did participate. And now, without further ado, these, by the way, the names on this wheel are their Twitter handles. We are going to spin the wheel. We are going to see who is getting $150. So, 3, 2, 1. Spin City time. And the winner is...
Oh!
John Gons_Algo. John Gons_Algo is our winner of $150. John Gons, shoot me a DM on Twitter or shoot Lags a DM on Twitter. I'll get you the money. PayPal, Venmo, whatever works. Apple Pay. Anything is good. Reach out to us, John Gons_Algo. If John Gons does not reach out to us, I'll reach out to him on Twitter if he doesn't reach out to us. But if he doesn't answer that, then we will rerun the contest again. Papa Chuck got really close, as Daz said.
That was crazy.
Didn't quite get there.
I know. Yeah. I was watching. Oh my God, crazy.
That was electric. Came down to the wire.
Electric. You love to see it.
Starting on the kind of content.
Electric. Yeah.
Honestly, a million people break down fights, but how many people are spinning the Wheel of Fortune? That's what I want to know. Got to get that subscriber count up. This is what the people come back here for. But anyway, we had a pay-per-view last week, and yeah, we'll go into the results here. It was a good card for me again. I mentioned on the show last week that I'd cashed out of my Shane Young bet. I actually, on Saturday morning, I'm pretty sure I tweeted it out, I cashed out of my Daun Jung bet too. Honestly, ultimately what it came down for me is the more I thought about it, I was like, you made some good points, Lags, and I was like, man, if he was having trouble tracking Sam Alvey, like he's probably going to have trouble tracking Oberg. Like I think he can knock him out, but like these are the kind of spots where I'm like talking myself into a guy I want to fade with a guy who I probably shouldn't be fading with. So yeah, I cashed out of the Jung bet. So that left me with Alexander Volkov, who I had 3 units on at -200. Obviously, it was a very good bet. Fight went more or less as I expected. I mean, Volkov's just more durable with better cardio and was literally more skilled everywhere. Ty's best chance was a bonk, and Volkov's only been KO'd twice in 40 fights. We both talked about Ty being slow, plotting, and was going to have trouble covering distance. Sure enough, he went 7 for 35 on head strike attempts. And as we saw, the 2 times Volkov got on top of him, he absolutely mauled. Ty had nothing for him in that realm. So, yeah, I mean, that was a good bet. I had a unit on Israel Adesanya. Sean Strickland goes the distance. Almost lost that one in round number 1. But after that,
yeah.
After that, it was sweat-free the rest of the way. And then you want to talk about sweaty, I had a unit at +192 on Manel Kopp, and Felipe Dos Santos goes the distance. And that was as sweaty as it gets, start to finish. My philosophy was just kind of, they're little guys. Dos Santos is coming out of the Oliveira camp where they have clearly the best doctor in the world there. Like none of these guys, outside of a guy we'll talk about this week who's on this card, every other guy in that gym doesn't seem to be able to be killed. And then you have Manel Kopp, who's super durable and very good defensively. So I took a shot. It was sweaty as fuck, but it did get home. So yeah, it was 3rd straight winning UFC card, which was nice. It was 4.67 unit profit for me. How did you do, Legs?
It was a small losing night for me. So in total, it was minus 0.35 units. Talking about the Jung fight first, and that was the one losing bet I had, which I had the fight doesn't start round 3, which wasn't a great bet at minus 175, but, you know, Oberg lacked a little bit committal throwing strikes other than the one time he actually hurt Jung. And then I had a unit on Kevin Juice said at -155, which I thought was a good bet as well. So
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We should probably talk about the main event real quick. I'll give my thoughts. I mean, obviously, great performance from Strickland. I do think a rerun is probably pretty competitive. Like, I've seen some people.
Do you see the line?
He did like -110, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which sounds right to me, honestly. I know it seemed dominant, and I've seen some people say Sean should be like -200, 250, but it's kind of interesting because I felt like round one, I thought Izzy was clearly winning until he got dropped with a minute left in the round. Obviously, Strickland won the round because he almost finished him, but round two, he won pretty easily. Round three, I thought was a really, really close round, and then obviously Strickland absolutely owned in round 4 and 5. I don't know. I kind of think that the fight's probably pretty competitive. Izzy can obviously make adjustments there. So I think it's an interesting fight on rerun. I was very, very impressed with Strickland's head strike defense. Like the guy just slipped everything Adesanya threw at him. Just an amazing performance by Strickland. I'm very happy for him. I'm a fan. What was your thoughts on the performance?
Yeah, again, can't really add much to it. Sean's a stud, and great to see him be champion. It's awesome. Great it's a feel good moment, that MMA Twitter just feel good moment,
Yeah, and I feel like he's a guy that that we all enjoy watching, and we all think the antics are hilarious, and we just never thought he'd get there just because the division was too good, and to see him get there is pretty cool. It's very, very fun. If someone was going to beat Izzy, I'm very happy it's not the giant South African and it's Sean Strickland.
Yeah. But now I will say Sean DDP next. If that's the fight next, that would be.
I would love that. That would be awesome. I would say you could sign me up for that.
But that's not going to be though. They're going to have a.
Sean did kill the African Super Bowl, unfortunately. That is now
crazy.
Dead and buried, which is wild. That fight had some juice, and now it's gone.
I know.
So yeah. Anyway, we got a great card here. Again, if you're just tuning in now, drop a like, subscribe, drop a comment, share. That contest was fun. I'm going to reach out and give the dude $150, and I will probably run it for the next pay-per-view. Hopefully we can get more than 10 people next time, but it's exciting. Try to switch it up a bit, keep people a little off balance at all times. And yeah, well, maybe we'll keep them off balance here. Interesting card. Any thoughts on it, Lags? Like, it should be fun, I guess, right?
To add to your point there about keeping people off balance, I will say I don't think we will keep people off balance in terms of the favorites winning. I think a lot of these favorites will be winning this card, so it's definitely a juice-heavy card. Me, personally, I don't see a ton of bets that I love. A few money lines here and there. Definitely will look at some props, but it's going to be a better viewing card than a betting card for sure.
Yeah, agree completely. I have 3 bets, and maybe if I see some decent props out there, but I don't have any plans to add at this moment. So yeah, first fight of the night, Juice City. We got Josephine Knutsson. She's taking on Marnik Mann. Knutsson's -750. The comeback on McMahon +500, I believe, or +550. I mean, Marnik Mann is one of the most heinous fighters to ever get an attempt at a UFC contract. I'm sorry, and I say this as someone who bet her on Contender Series, and it was horrendous. Like, she looked like she did not belong with Bruna Brazil, and Bruna Brazil is not a very good fighter. So yeah, I mean, she's terrible. She's a grappler first, but she's tiny. She probably should be fighting at like 105, but they don't have that division in the UFC. And she's fighting. Uncle Tom says she's not that bad. We'll agree to disagree. And she's fighting. She's done well against like bad women, but like she looked completely outclassed by Brazil. And look, Josephine Knutsson, I'm not really a big fan of her. I think the fade is going to come eventually, but she does have really, really good hardware. Very durable for a woman. Very good counter grappler, and she hits very hard and can keep a pace. And in the women's game, that's just enough to dumpster these low-level women. Like, I can't see Mann having much wrestling success here. And if she can't have much wrestling success, where does she win this fight?
Right.
I just don't see it. I think Knutsson steamrolls her here. And yeah, I think it's Knutsson all day. I think the under I'm kind of interested in the under. I'm a bit worried. The reason I haven't played it is I'm a bit worried Knutsson just cage presses a little too much, but I think if she goes for it, she can finish here. What are your thoughts, Legs?
Well, I think I'll say first, I think you're a little caught up with the UFC WWE merger here, Vince McMahon, with this. But no, I mean, there's not much to add. Like what you added at the end there. If Mann doesn't get any wrestling success going, what does she really have? Because her striking is atrocious. So, I mean, I don't see her getting any wrestling success here. So, big favorite makes sense. I don't.
Yeah, she's a wrestler who's not very good at wrestling and has very minimal physicality. Like that's a horrible, horrible dynamic for a UFC fighter. So, yeah, not great. Moving on, we got Charlie Campbell. He's making a short notice debut, replacing Latan Levy. He's fighting Alex Reyes. He's the brother of Dominic Reyes. He's been off for 6 years. Almost died. Pat, I believe it was like major spinal surgery or something along those lines. Didn't start training again until a year and a half ago. Now he's making his debut, or not debut, his second fight in the UFC. He was knocked out by Mike Perry in the first round in his first fight. It's a great story. But the truth, and the line, Charlie Campbell's minus 500, the comeback's plus 375. It's kind of a shame because I was actually thinking of laying like the heavy chalk on Natan Levy just because I'm not a Levy fan. But I feel like this dynamic with Reyes, this guy didn't start training again until a year and a half ago. They had a massive viral infection that almost killed him. He's 36 years old. He wasn't great to begin with. It feels like he should not be fighting in a UFC fight. And so that seemed like a great net macro dynamic to lay the juice on Levy. Now he's fighting Charlie Campbell, and I actually think Charlie Campbell is very, very talented. I don't know how far he'll go because I do think his defense could use some significant improvements, but he hits hard. He's very aggressive. He's a good grappler. He's got great cardio, and he's just going to come for you. And Alex Reyes, he's a wild man. He could clip Campbell here, but ultimately with the 6-year layoff, with Reyes being hittable and not that durable, and Charlie Campbell being a young buck who is hungry and an absolute killer, I think he absolutely carves through Reyes here. I don't really think this fight should be getting made. I don't think Reyes should be given a fight in the UFC, quite frankly. So, yeah, it's a cool story. It would be cool if Reyes won, but I think Campbell smokes him. What do you think, Legs?
Yeah, it's one of those fights kind of like you ended it on, like, why is it getting made, really? Like, there had to be another body that we could have put in here of Mexican descent, to make this card, But yeah, I think Campbell owns him and knocks him out. I don't like Reyes' striking style at all. Campbell's just going to come forward, land big shots.
Yeah, Pepe said he laid it. Honestly, I feel like better than minus 400 was pretty good.
Yeah.
It may even be more than what the price is now, but it's just like you can't lay minus 500 on a debutante,
And I wouldn't want to lay minus 220 on like the under 1.5 either.
Yeah, which is that was the attractive thing there. And that's just not, 70%. Can it really be that much north of that? I don't know. So, but yeah, Campbell should crush. Moving on though, Tracy Cortez, Jasudavicius. Seen a lot of mixed opinions on this fight. Lags, what are your thoughts here? Also, the odds on this fight are Cortez minus 125, comeback on Jasmine plus 105.
No strong opinions. Lean the Tracy side just because I think she's more likely to get takedowns here, but I think the stand-up's probably close with the size and everything. So pass. I just don't. Again, not a strong enough read. I think if you have to, I would say if you like the Tracy side, you would have to think she dominates in the wrestling, and I just don't.
So my instinct is that Tracy does dominate in the wrestling, but I will say, to your point, it's like to lay a price here, you have to have a strong read. And I wouldn't say I don't have a strong read. I'm almost certain Tracy is the better wrestler here. She's obviously a cardio grappler, very, very good wrestler for WMMA. She's got a very good control game. And I don't think Jasmine is all that talented of a fighter in terms of her raw skill set. But at the same time, Jasmine is gigantic. She seems to be very, very durable. She's got good cardio. And her last couple fights, you're seeing her fight with a lot more aggression than we've seen in the past. Giant woman who is durable with cardio, who just gets in your face, is a meta in WMMA that can work. You saw Maverick just kind of break under the pressure and attack of Jasmine. And so that's concerning me because if Jasmine is big enough that she's not easy to take down and or can get up, I could see just the nonstop pressure and output of Jasmine give Tracy a lot of issues here. But with that said, my instinct is that Tracy is going to be able to grapple her pretty badly. It's just Jasmine comes from a wrestling background, but it's Canadian wrestling. Like Tracy's a real wrestler. She's one of the better female wrestlers in WMMA. My gut is she's going to roll Jasmine here. But again, I don't feel I don't like fading the archetype that Jasmine is. That feels like a dangerous game to play because if I'm wrong about the grappling dynamic, then I look wrong in a big way about the fight. So Eileen Tracy, I think she wins, but it's an interesting fight. Moving on, Edgar Chairez. He's taking on Daniel Lacerda. Chairez minus 240, or Da Silva. Yeah, Lacerda Da Silva, whatever the fuck his name is. Chairez minus 245. Come back on Da Silva plus 210. I mean, I know some very sharp people that are betting Chairez here. I can't even really disagree with that bet. At this point with Daniel Da Silva, you really can't bet him past round one. And even his round one props at this point are getting priced into being way too high to bet. And obviously, we know what he is. He's going to come out. He's going to look for the kill early. And if he doesn't get it, he's dead. He's going to gas out and be finished. And in the context of this fight, Chairez seems pretty durable to me. I do think there is some equity for Da Silva to have grappling success here. But with that said, Chairez does do a very good job of retaining guard. I don't really think Da Silva can get him down, pass, advance, and finish him on the mat just because, I mean, you saw it with against Tyra. Tyra had trouble passing with him. Tyra's a much better grappler than Da Silva is. So ultimately, I kind of expect this is going to go exactly like the script here, which is maybe Da Silva has a live first round, could potentially finish Chairez early here. Obviously, he's a very, very dynamic striker, but he's the one guy from Shootbox Camp who is not superhuman and will gas out horribly and get finished. So I'm probably not going to bet it just because I hate the idea of trying to fade Da Silva at this point. Like, we talk about edges in the market quite frequently on this show. And at this point, what Da Silva is, in my opinion, is often getting priced into the line. There's no secret. Everybody knows. There's no edge being like, I'm fading Da Silva's cardio. It's 125. How likely is he to finish early? Now, is it possible the market's still underestimating that? Yes. But at the same time, with that being such readily available knowledge, it makes me a little queasy laying a price like that at this point in Da Silva's career. So I'm going to pass it, but I do think Chairez late finish probably is what occurs here. What do you think?
I think our boy C said this well. And on top of obviously the cardio and stuff we talked about, it's not like Lacerda's some massive like one hitter quitter type of striker either. So like he's not giving himself a ton of equity in that 5 minutes anyways.
Yeah.
I think Chairez finishes him. There's not much of a playable line here. I think you would have to go Chairez ITD. The under 1.5, I think, was super juiced. So,
I mean, I guess you could lay the money line. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world. I really, really hate betting on things that everybody knows. Because if you're betting on something everybody knows, what is your edge really? And what we're trying to bet on where you have a market edge. So, yeah, that's just my perspective anyway. Moving on.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I didn't even, real quick. Yeah. I didn't even see what the ITD line was. I didn't realize ITD was minus 170 and then the money line where it's at now. Yeah. No, I would just lay the money line.
Yeah. It's, there's no meat on the bone there.
No.
Yeah. So, and even like his 2-3 props, I think are like, what are they? Plus 500, plus 600. That neighborhood?
So round 2 is 450 on Bet Online, and round 3 750. Not great.
And like his Lacerda's never even gotten to a round 3. So it's what's your edge there again?
2, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's collapsed in round 1 multiple times in the UFC. So you're not, I mean, that's just not really even playable to me.
Right.
Moving on, I'll throw it to you though, Lags. We got this is going to be an interesting one to talk about. We got Roman Kopylov taking on Josh Fremd. Kopylov minus 405, Fremd plus 305. What are your thoughts here?
I think there's a lot of thoughts. You could talk about the market. You could talk about how Kopylov is fighting Puna and then Ribeiro, both guys who I think are just swingy gassers. And so it looks great and everything. And now, Kopylov is minus 400 because I think Fremd in general just didn't look great against Pickett as a massive favorite. But these are the kind of spots where you bet Josh Fremd as a big dog, plus 250, plus 275. There are certainties in this fight, and I feel like the grappling and the cardio are certainty edges for Fremd. So plus 250, plus 275. It's an easy bet.
Yeah, I'm very confused at this line. I bet Josh Fremd this week at plus 240, and I think I texted you, and I was this is definitely going to come down there's no way this line is right. And instead it's gone all the way the other way. We're now at like plus 300. And every take I've heard not from the people we talk to, but from the people that we don't talk to on a daily basis, most people I see are talking about, how easy a fight this is for Kopylov. And I keep thinking to myself, does everybody forget Roman Kopylov's entire career pretty much? His best performance by far was the Puna fight. But I feel...
And people were betting Puna there.
Everybody was betting Puna. He was minus 150. It was 2 fights ago. Puna's, and I feel the market dramatically overrates Puna Soriano in general. People forget, but Puna Soriano is a guy who got badly outclassed by Brendan Allen standing. And Brendan Allen's a solid fighter, but he's not an elite striker, and he absolutely carved Puna apart on the feet in that fight. Puna, he's just a powerhouse. Like, that's what he is. And as you said, a gassy swinger. That's the best way to put it. And Kopylov destroyed him. Also, Puna was a southpaw, which opened up a lot of things for Kopylov there that he won't have with Fremd. Then he won his last fight with Ribeiro. He arguably lost the first round of that fight before he knocked Ribeiro out in round 2. And Ribeiro is not very good. Even going back to prior to this is a guy who got submitted by Carl Roberson, one of the worst to ever do it and one of the worst grapplers to ever do it. He lost the fight to Duraev, which at the time, everybody was like, oh, Albert Duraev, it's forgivable. This guy's great. Turns out Albert Duraev's horrible. The guy's got maybe 1 round of gas, and then he just gets dumpstered. And so I look at this. Josh Fremd is hittable. I think we both would agree, right, that Kopylov could take his head off early in this fight. But the truth is, Fremd throws a lot more output than Kopylov does. He just has a much higher work rate when they're at distance, as he hits hard himself. It's not as if Fremd is a light hitter. He's a pretty big hitter himself. He's the taller fighter. As you touched on, if he ever consolidates a takedown on top of Kopylov, he's going to wreck him. There's like no question about it. And so we have a guy with the big cardio edge, the two certainties you touched on, cardio edge, grappling edge, and a guy who, if he doesn't get knocked out, is probably going to land more volume. I feel you have to make Kopylov KO 50 to 60% for this line to be right. Personally, I wouldn't bet Roman Kopylov at minus 150 in this fight, much less minus 400. This is insane to me. So I bet Fremd. I'm going to probably add a plus 300.
So real quick though, Kopylov's no scorecards is getting steamed all the way to minus 330.
What?
Yeah.
One takedown might be the fight for Fremd. It's why it is wild the way the market has completely 180.
People hate Josh Fremd. People hate Josh Fremd too.
Dude, Josh Fremd, this guy's a lunch pail, blue collar guy, salt of the earth American here.
From Pittsburgh,
and by the way,
baby.
Yeah, it's UFC Noche. It's not UFC Russia. They're not sending Kopylov across the world to get a win in front of like his native folks here. Josh Fremd's going to do the damn thing for America. Uncle Tom says, I'm telling you, KO Cop. I can see it. I 100% can believe Kopylov can KO him here. That is a very live outcome. I just feel if Kopylov does not KO him, Fremd is likely going to put it on him the longer this fight goes.
Yeah, if this goes 15, there's no way you're confident with Kopylov minus 400.
I mean, if it goes 15, if I tell you right now, no other info about the fight, that it goes 15 minutes, who do you think, who would you get? Who would you favor outright to win the fight?
Fremd, right.
Yes, this is my point.
Yeah. Because only one guy is going to have, in my opinion, prolonged success to the point where, like, if Kopylov's having quick striking success, he's probably finishing him. This isn't going to be like a back and forth striking, in my opinion. If anything, there's going to be, like I said, if there's grappling involved, Fremd's going to just snowball effect. It's going to be a snowball effect, in my opinion.
I feel like we heard all of the same takes going into Fremd's fight with Dumas that we're hearing here about how open Fremd is to hit. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And Dumas is a better grappler than Kopylov is. So, with better cardio. So, oh, John, here we go. He did win the $150. Yeah, dude, DM me on Twitter or Lags or both of us, and I will get that sent over to you. Congratulations. Anyway, yeah, and Pepe says how poor he looked against Pickett, but even that,
right?
Did he 30-27 Pickett?
If I recall, I don't know if I remember correctly. I think so, though. But he was like a minus 350, and that's, I think, kind of why, because he was almost finished in round 2, what it was.
Pickett's such a tough, like, not even a tough guy to fight, but Pickett just makes fights hideous if you don't finish him early in fights, you know? So, anyway, I like Fremd. Lags likes Fremd. We'll see what happens. Moving on, we have another squash match here. Lupita Godinez, she's up to minus 500, taking on Elise Reed. Comeback plus 375 on her. I mean, I will say this. Lags talked about how we would talk about potential parlay busters. I think Loopy should absolutely maul Elise Reed. If she fights and sticks the right way and sticks to the script, this is easy fucking work. I don't trust Loopy Godinez to stick to the script, though. And I say this as someone who is a fan of Loopy Godinez. I think she's got a great skill set. I think if she fights intelligently, she's probably a future top 10 fighter. But I've seen her too many times just get lulled into a boxing match here. And I think she can beat Elise Reed boxing too. But if she strikes with Reed, Reed's going to have some success here. And it's probably a very competitive fight if that happens. But again, you know, I do understand the line to a degree. I mean, Loopy's a very good grappler, and Reed is one of the worst there is in the UFC. She should really, Pepe said, hopefully looks at the Carnelossi fight. That's kind of my gut feeling of what it is. I think Loopy could finish her. I think she should finish this fight. I'm at the point with her where I need to see, before I start being confident she's going to do the right thing, I need to start seeing the takedowns on a consistent basis. But yeah, I mean, the pick's Loopy. I just think this is a kind of red flag fight, you know, if you're throwing parlays out there. What are your thoughts?
100%. Lags? And on top of the, I need to see it before I want to lay the kind of number thing. Her ITD line is plus 145.
That's pretty, like, that can't get.
Yeah, no. This is such an easy bathroom break fight. Loopy should handle pretty easily. Agreed.
Perfect way to put it. Bathroom break fight. That is perfect. It should be Loopy season, but don't trust Loopy. Yep. Moving on. Fernando Padilla. He's taking on Kyle Nelson. Padilla minus 241. Comeback on Nelson plus 206. I faded Padilla pretty big with Rosa in his first fight. And Juicy did what Juicy does and got himself knocked out in the first round of that fight. Was an unfortunate outcome. Did not make me very happy. I don't know how much stock to put into it because it seems like with Rosa, he's either getting KO'd very fast or once he settles into a fight, he just turns into the Terminator and puts it on you. And I still, broadly speaking, have many of the same concerns around Padilla that I had coming in. I don't totally trust his cardio. I don't trust his grappling. He is a good counter striker, but I don't trust his output. But then on the other side, you have Kyle Nelson. And like Kyle Nelson, in my opinion, is one of the worst fighters in the UFC. And I think he is, you know, I made a decent bag betting him live against Blake Builder, but, you know, I didn't bet him. I think I mentioned on the show, I was intrigued by him in that fight. And I just couldn't bring myself to do it because I just think so low of him. The guy's got no gas. He's kind of fragile. And, you know, he's an okay grappler, but like nothing special at all. He's no Julian Erosa. And so, again, I look at this. I kind of want to fade Padilla, but I don't think this is the spot. I really don't. Not on UFC Noche. Pepe said intrigue Padilla 2-3. I think that's an interesting look. And my gut feeling is Nelson's probably going to compete early here. But, you know, I may have questions about Padilla's cardio, but I know Kyle Nelson's cardio is dog shit. And Padilla, big enough counter striker and a hard enough hitter against Nelson, who is pretty fragile, that I just think eventually Padilla just takes him out here. The script's written. It's Mexico. What do you think, Lags?
Yeah, I don't rate Nelson as much of a grappler. And as you touched on,
he's not very good.
No,
he's proactive at least.
Yeah. And the guy's got no defense. Guy's got no cardio, like you touched on. I think Padilla makes easy work of him. Not really, again, not much of a playable angle here. If you want to play props, you're looking 2-3, you're looking inside the distance. I know we're talking about pretty much like this every fight, but yeah, that's just how this card is.
Dude, I mean, I'm looking at this card now. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights over minus 400.
Well, I was going to say, there's only like 3 fights that are competitively lined. The co-main, the main, and then the
Cortez.
Yep.
Yeah. And like of those fights, we have 2 minus 500s and 2 minus 800s. Or 1 minus 5. Yeah, 2 minus 500s and 2 minus 800s. Like that is That is crazy. Especially because the UFC is trying to like highlight, oh, it's UFC Noche. We got the Mexican belt out there. Like, come watch this. We're doing it in T-Mobile, guys. It's a pay-per-view, but not a pay-per-view. And then they just saddle us with this shit. So, whatever. I mean, it's fights. We get to bet on them. It's exciting. I'm always grateful. But anyway, moving on. Daniel Zellhuber, he's taking on Christos the Spartan Giagos. Really fun fight, to be honest. Zellhuber minus 260, Giagos plus 220. What are your thoughts here, Lags?
I actually think this is one that probably could be wider on the Zellhuber side. Giagos is, for me, doesn't have much defense. Another guy that gas tank is pretty shit. I would obviously rate him as much more of a grappler than I would Kyle Nelson. But I think Giagos is more or less dying. He dies to it, or I should say, he is tied to an early finish, I should say, put it that way. So I think Zellhuber, more or less, longer this fight goes, I think his volume breaks him down. I like the money line as a parlay piece.
Yeah, I don't disagree regarding, I think the line's about right. And I say that even though I'm generally a pretty big Christos Giagos fan, I think the guy is skilled. He's pretty durable. He bites the mouthpiece in the pocket. He's fast. He throws hard. He's an excellent athlete. He's probably one of the better athletes in the division. The problem is, as we all know, with Giagos, it's inevitable the man is going to suffer cardio death 6 minutes into the fight. It happens like clockwork every single fight. I kind of expect that he's going to come out and compete early here. I wouldn't even be surprised if he dominates the first round. But at this point, until I see Christos Giagos show me that he is capable of fighting at least at like 75% passed around, it's just very hard to bet him, especially against a guy like Zellhuber who manages distance fairly well. He's very big. I don't think takedowns are going to come easy against him. I do think if Giagos gets on top, there is some potential that he could hold him down. Like, we haven't seen a ton of Zellhuber on his back, and it's been kind of a bit spotty what we have seen, but that was years ago when he's a young kid. And again, it's UFC Noche. They clearly want him to win this fight. And yeah, I mean, Giagos, I think, gives him hell early, but I think it's like clockwork that Zellhuber takes over this fight in the 5 to 7 minute range and probably puts it on him down the stretch. Maybe he stops him. Maybe he wins a decision here, but I'm with you. Unless Giagos is fighting guys that I know for a fact can't get off their backs. Like, I remember I bet him against Demir Hadzovic like 5 years ago, and the calculus was easy. Demir Hadzovic can't defend takedowns and he can't get up. I don't care how gassed he is. He's going to be able to just lay on top of him, and which is exactly what happened. This is not that. And so unless he has those kind of matchups, I just can't get behind a money line on Giagos. So maybe take a look at some round one props, but even that, Zellhuber seems stupid durable, man. I mean, the shots this guy ate from Lucas Almeida and just kept coming were wild. So yeah, I'm with you. Zellhuber should take care of business. Should be fun early. I think live, but it could be interesting, especially if Giagos has a really strong first round. But like, if Giagos wins round one and you get like minus 180 on Zellhuber after a round, that's probably pretty good.
And even, I was going to say, to add on to that, even with DK, probably with the same game parlays, doing like Zellhuber money line and like the over 5.5 minutes or 7.5 minutes, you're probably getting like a similar-ish kind of price there too, like a minus 140, minus 145.
What are the Zellhuber late round props here? What do we got here?
Let me let you know here. So round 2, 5-1, round 3, 650 on balance.
Oh God, fuck that. Man. I can't be. I've seen Giagos take an absurd amount of damage and not get put out at all. I can't. That's not enough for me. So yeah, to pass fight.
Yep.
Moving on. Another squash match we have here. We've got Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Terrence Mitchell. Rosas lined up at minus 800 now. The comeback on Mitchell plus 550. What are your thoughts here, Lags?
Got to quote Clint here on this one. Friend of the pod. You can take the fighter out of Alaska FC, but you cannot take the Alaska FC out of the fighter. Mitchell's one of the worst to do it. He's a horrible defensive grappler. Rosas should make easy work of this. Again, it's another one where, what are you playing? The under 1.5 is massively juiced. You're looking pretty much at any kind of like KO prop, I think, for Rosas. That's probably like the only value you're getting out of this fight.
What is Rosas? Oh my God, minus 400 ITD. But
Yeah.
it's
And his sub is
disgusting.
minus 225.
Even that's not good. He could
Yeah, no, I
positionally
know.
KO him.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
It's like, oh God. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm still very down on Raul Rosas. Like, obviously, the man's got slick jiu-jitsu. He's dangerous early in fights. He's still an 18-year-old kid. This kid doesn't have man strength. We saw him break pretty bad against Christian Rodriguez in his last fight. And the problem here is he's just taking on a complete bum who's clearly coming in to do a job. Now, I will say, if Terrence Mitchell makes it out of round one, I will look to enter live because he likes to grapple himself. And I mean, Christian Rodriguez isn't a bad grappler, but I don't think Christian Rodriguez is any kind of good control grappler. And Rosas just seemed like there was nothing left in round two. So if in the unlikely scenario, Terrence Mitchell is able to survive the first 6 to 7 minutes here, I could see him having success down the stretch. But I just think Rosas finishes this fight at such a huge clip. It's almost not even worth it, you know? I'd rather just get to take a live number if I wanted to get involved. And also, I don't really want to get involved. I'd much rather Rosas just maul this dude, finish him early, and we get to bet someone okay or slightly below average at huge dog odds again.
John,
So,
this is exactly the Jung fight and why you cashed out.
Yeah, you're right. This is say no to drugs.
Right. It's a guy you want to fade, but not with the right guy.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah, Rosas wins easy here. Moving on, though, we got probably the people's main event. We got Jack Della Maddalena, minus 143, Kevin Holland, plus 123. I don't even want to say what I'm on just because I feel at this point it's becoming almost like a meme and everybody thinks I just hate Jack Della Maddalena. And I don't hate him. 100%. I think that's what's going through people's minds. Like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, God, here we go again. You can't even
here we go. John losing money against Jack. Yeah.
But so I am on Holland big here. I have 3 units on him, plus 132. And if it wasn't Kevin Holland, if it was anybody else, if it was someone named Marcus Jones, who was the exact same fighter as Kevin Holland without the IQ lapses, I'd probably max bet the spot. Here's the thing. I think Jack is a very good fighter, and I think he's going to dominate matchups that are favorable for him, i.e. guys who can't grapple him and guys who just don't have any kind of good distance tools and cage management. But I think he's got a number of fairly large flaws. He's kind of plotting, Jack is, obviously his boxing is great, but I don't think he closes distance great. We saw in the Brown fight, Randy Brown, he was easily kind of keeping him at the edge of his reach. The problem is the one time Brown got trapped on the fence, he tried to push him away and Jack just walloped him over the top. Brown just didn't have the hardware for that fight, unfortunately. But I do think Jack kind of struggles a bit with, long rangey guys and just athleticism. I don't think Jack's a great athlete. And, we've seen he is pretty hittable. The guy can be hurt. We saw him get hurt multiple times regionally. And now he's in a fight with a guy like Kevin Holland. And, one of the things Jack's benefited from throughout his early career to date is the guys he's fought really are just not up to snuff, both in terms of durability and just pure technique. First fight in the UFC, Pete Rodriguez. I mean, dude came in on 2 days' notice, weight class up, no defense, no durability, and he landed on Jack plenty in that fight, but gets put out cold. Second fight, who did he fight second? It was Ramazan Emeev second. Fuck me. Ramazan Emeev almost insta-taps him and then just dies to the first body shot that lands. Third fight, Danny Roberts. And I took a small poke at Roberts there because Roberts is a longtime vet. I underestimated how shot Roberts is. We just saw Roberts lose to a journeyman bum in his last fight and is now cut from the UFC. And then we have the Hafez fight where I don't think it's particularly relevant in the context of this fight because Kevin Holland is not going to grapple. Let's be honest. I would love it if he did, but Kevin Holland is not going to grapple here. But you saw, it's funny because I got shit on so bad for betting Emeev plus 125. And then everybody saw the Hafez fight. And I'm like, yeah, Emeev obviously should have been a favorite in that fight. He just happened to die to the first body shot that landed. And now here we are. And Kevin Holland's an idiot. He's not going to grapple and take advantage of his best skills. But Kevin Holland is a great athlete. He's by far the best athlete Jack's faced. He is the most durable fighter Jack's ever faced. Kevin's never been knocked out. He hasn't even, I don't believe he's been dropped in the UFC outside of the headbutt from Kyle Dawkins. He's very fast. He's got a 4-inch height advantage. He's got an 8-inch reach advantage. I've seen people say Holland doesn't manage distance well, and it's like, well, where do you get that from? Like, go look at his last couple fights. These guys aren't getting inside him. Santiago Ponzinibbio is still a pretty good striker. He's less durable than he once was, but offensively, he's still very potent. And Ponzinibbio was swinging at air most of that fight. Went 12 for 50 on head strike attempts. Tim Means, the fight before, Tim Means is much bigger than Jack is. Couldn't really get inside Holland. We're just getting picked apart from the outside, so we had to try to wrestle. We see it every fight. Holland is awkward, so people hate him because he's awkward and he's janky and whatnot, but it works. He almost had a fight very similar to this with Joaquin Buckley, and Buckley came at him hard as fuck and went to his body hard as fuck, by the way, because that's the narrative out there. Jack's going to wreck him to the body. Buckley went to the body plenty, and he tanked the shots, no problem. Buckley couldn't land to the head, and he just dominated that fight and eventually knocked him out. And ironically, if you look at him next to Buckley, he looks like a giant in that fight. Fun fact, Joaquin Buckley is the same height as Jack and 2 inches longer. Holland has a gigantic size edge here. In my opinion, he has a gigantic athleticism edge. I think it's a competitive fight because Jack does have a lot of volume. He does hit hard. He is a great boxer if he gets in the pocket. But they're in a big cage, and I just think Jack's going to have a lot of trouble closing distance here. I think he's going to have a lot of trouble dealing with the 8-inch reach disadvantage and the speed from Holland. And our boy Ozzy pointed this out earlier in the week. But, look at some of the exchanges that Jack got into with Basil Hafez in his last fight. He is willing to bite down and leaves himself very, very open. And between the two, I think Holland's hardware is a lot better than Jack's is. He may not hit as hard, but he's a hard hitter himself, and Holland is super durable, while we've seen Jack get dropped by bums regionally multiple times. I make Holland a moderate favorite here. I think if Jack blows through him, I'll be super impressed. But personally, I think Jack's good. I think this is a really fucking tough fight for him, though. What do you think, Legs?
I think it's a great fight as well. Close fight for me, honestly, and I just don't want to. It's not that I don't want to have money on Kevin Holland, but it's just a fight where I'm perfectly fine with just passing on the fight in general. Just because I think, while I do think the length and the speed will definitely give Jack issues. At least when I was talking to you about not necessarily the distance with Holland, but like when the guy's jumping into range a lot, he leaves himself open. I mean,
he does
100%. And like you touched about with him being janky, this and there, I just think it's a great fight. And I think the under is probably the best look, even though Holland 100% is pretty durable. I just think it's gonna be a pretty high pace fight.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of interesting too. One last thing, sorry, on the Holland side, we know Jack's gonna try to hit the body, but Jack's gonna have to come into a range that is pretty fucking dangerous with Holland to go to the body. Holland in those clinch positions is very dangerous. Nasty elbows, nasty knees in there. It's not gonna be Danny Roberts or Ramazan Ameev shelling up on the fence while Jack's allowed to throw a 10-punch combination to the body. We'll see what happens, but I honestly think this is Kevin Holland all day. And I know I am going to catch unbelievable amounts of hate if Jack puts him out again. And I actually have another shoey bet here with our boy Evan, who
nice.
I will have on to do a shoey next week after Kevin knocks Jack out. I think Holland KO is interesting too. I think it's plus 300. It's something like that.
FanDuel's plus 500.
What?
FanDuel's plus 500.
Talk dirty to me. I'm going to definitely bet that. Yeah. Two-way action on this fight. I know a lot of sharp people who like the Jack side, but here at the Club and Sub podcast, it's Kevin Holland season. Call Big Mouth. Moving on, though. We got a rematch. We have the headliner for UFC Noche. The Mexicans are going to be out in force. The Mexican belt is out in force. Alexa Grasso, she's trying to represent on Mexican Independence Day. Pulled off a miracle the last time she fought Valentina Shevhcenko. What was that? About a year ago? 8 months ago? Something like that. Current line, Shevchenko minus 160. The comeback on Grasso plus 140. What are your thoughts, Lags? Is Grasso going to get it done again, or is Valentina going to get her title back?
The curse of the Mexican artistic belt? Like Yair Rodriguez, maybe. Again, similar to the Nunez Pena fight, I just feel like this was a massive market swing from the last fight to this fight. I feel like on the feet, Val has a decent edge. I'm not going to say like it's 50-50 by any means, but I have a slight edge for Val. And I think she has, like we saw in the last fight, a pretty big grappling edge. So to me, at minus 170, I think it's a pretty easy bet. And like I said, a massive market swing from the last fight. It's not like we saw, massive cardio collapse or anything like that. I think this is Val regaining the strap.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have 3 units on Val at minus 150. I think the current number's fine. Before I break it down, credit to our boy Pepe in the chat, who fucking king had Grasso submission like plus 2,000 against Val in the first matchup. Unbelievable hit. But, as far as this fight goes, I kind of think Grasso is kind of having the last fight being graded on the curve a bit. I've seen some people talk about, she was really competitive with Val striking. And that's how I had remembered it too. But you go back and you rewatch it. And round 1, she was competitive with her. She obviously won round 1. She stung her a couple times. But after round 1, Val seemed to find her range and started countering her up bad. And the last 2 rounds of the fight, rounds 3 and 4, she was just popping her head back, every time they'd engage in the pocket and just slipping everything Grasso threw at her. And the numbers back it up too. She outlanded her like 65-35 at distance or something like that. And it looked like she was just taking over this fight striking too. And so I think there's some equity for Val getting worse here just because she is 35. And so I wouldn't make her a big favorite on the feet, but I kind of agree with you. I'd make her like, I think if they just stood for 25 minutes, I'd probably make Val around minus 150. Yeah. The thing is, when you factor in the grappling and what we saw in that fight, Grasso subbed her, but like, how often is she getting? I mean, that back take was slick as fuck. I mean, in fairness to her, that was awesome. But how often is she getting that to happen, man? Something we were talking about earlier today, people look at one iteration of a fight and immediately after it, they'll ascribe value or no value based on that iteration. Even though in theory, if a minus 400 is appropriately lined at minus 400, they're going to lose that fight 1 in 5 times, which is actually a lot when you think about it. Like if I tell you, if you leave your house, you have a 1 in 5 chance of dying, you're never leaving your fucking house, But right. We don't treat it like that. It says it's one iteration. And so like my view is it's like I give Al a slight edge on the feet. I think Grasso pulled out one of her best ways to win that fight. We saw Val was timing the takedowns pretty easily on her. She was controlling her pretty easy. The one time Grasso did get a stand-up out of her once, but the one time she opened her guard up, she basically got put in a crucifix almost immediately. And so I just think when you add in the grappling factor into this fight on top of the striking, conservatively, if you factor in Val aging out a bit and potential for her to, decline here, I still think you have to put her like minus 250. I can't really get below that number in my head. I just, I've heard comparisons to the Usman-Edwards fight, but what I just don't agree with about that, go back to that. The first fight was in altitude and Leon gassed out. The second fight, Usman was injured. And the truth is, Usman, he's 36 years old with no knees, and Leon was at home in Europe, and Usman was hurt. So I don't really think there's many comparisons here. We've seen this fight. We've seen how easy the available paths are for Val. It feels like you said. It feels a lot more like Shevchenko or like Pena Nunes to me than it does the other one. Maybe there's some fuckery going on Mexican Independence Day. But what I can't get past, man, and obviously Grasso is very good. I'm not going to say she's not. But I can't get past, I was looking at the UFC rankings today, and I don't know. Grasso definitely I wouldn't have power rated number 1. I would certainly have Blanchfield and Santos in front of her. I think her and Chookagian would be a competitive fight. And so I'm thinking about Grasso like that. If that's how I'm thinking about her, she can't be plus 140 against Valentina. It just doesn't make any sense to me, So maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe we'll both be wrong.
Yep.
And Grasso will come out here, outperform expectations. But I think Valentina gets the job done and gets her belt back. So.
I think an interesting talking point that we were talking about, that you mentioned actually, we were talking about the Nunes fight, how she was a minus 900 favorite. 900. Mm-hmm. Gets pretty much run through, gasses out, and then gets relined as a minus 300 favorite. And pretty much holds there. stays there. Meanwhile, again, Val's minus 900 here, gets, misses a spinning attack,
Gets memed.
Gets memed, rear naked choked, and now Val's minus 170.
You back?
Yeah, I was here. I was here the whole time.
Yeah, you got bumped for a second, I think.
Oh, did I? Oh.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's very weird how the market corrected on that, because it's like, I mean, Val was minus 1,200 live when she lost. It is not, everybody was starting to talk on Twitter like, oh, Valentina figured her out, et cetera, et cetera. And then suddenly she was subbed and that was it. And now it's being lined competitively. And I just can't subscribe to the idea that because I know what happened with the Usman fight, but I just can't subscribe to the idea that just because one thing happened once, it means this time it'll happen more emphatically. Yeah, to Pepe's point, it was 2-1, but it did look like it was going downhill fast, in my opinion.
Hopefully no fuckery on the judges' scorecards if we get there. That's all I'm saying. But don't think we will need that, because I think on the feet, I think on the feet, Val's striking numbers, I think she'll be able to distance herself enough.
What do you think about in the grappling? What do you think about over here?
At what, 4.5 though?
Is it 4.5?
It's 4.5, and it was getting steamed on DK because that's where I was looking at least, and it was minus 160 to the over 4.
I see minus 147 bet online.
See, I just prefer Val money line. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I do think there's more finishing equity on the Val side by a decent amount than the Grasso side, but yeah. I don't know. I mean, I
see, that's the thing we were talking about with the last fight, the last iteration of this fight. Like, what's her KO equity? What's her finish, Grasso's sub equity or finish equity in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly clear that the sub was underlined, because anybody who's capable of that slick a back take, I mean, it's got to be at least 10%, and I think that's about where I would put it. It's about like 10%. But I think her KO equity is very, very minimal.
It's that Diego Lopez BJJ,
Yeah. Whereas I think Val's got more KO equity, and I think she's got a lot more sub equity as well, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we could be wrong, and maybe Grasso comes up and runs through her. And if that's the case, fine. But I can't rewatch that fight and look at the kind of macro here and not funny. This is pretty funny. Plus 2,500 the first time, plus 350 this time.
Criminal.
Now it's probably overline, honestly. Like that is.
I was gonna say that's probably one of the shortest props. Let's say what's like Val KO and stuff like that.
Val KO. That actually is pretty interesting. She does have a lot of ground and pound finishes.
Well, I was just curious also because that was at plus 350, where everything
plus 400.
So that's
plus 400 KO.
Okay, so Shev decision's the shortest prop in terms of everything. All right.
Yeah, and money line's the best for her if you're betting Shevchenko.
Yeah, I mean, a plus 150, her by decision. That's, to me, there's no meat considering how much of a finish.
Same at plus 400.
Yeah.
What's her submission? What's the Shevchenko submission here?
650 on Bet Online.
It's not great either.
Yeah,
that's not ideal. But yeah, I mean, that'll do it. We're on the Shevchenko side. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be. I'm excited for the card. It'll be fun. We got fights. It's basically being billed as a pay-per-view, so it'll be pretty fun to watch. We're back next week, same time as always, 7 p.m. Eastern, and that card is great main event next week. We got Fiziev, Gamrot, and we got return of Bryce Mitchell fighting Dan Ige. So a lot of fun fights to chat about on that card. Oh my fucking god, dude. Jake Collier is plus 155 right now. I bet 2 units on him at plus 108 on this like 2 weeks ago. And now I'm going to keep adding. Here we go. One last time with money on Jake Collier. Yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, guys, thanks for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate Pepe holding down the chat. Guys, be more active in there. I'll respond to the comments. It's fun. We want
you can win $150 out here, people. $150.
Yeah. I am redoing my office, so we're gonna make this even more exciting. I'm gonna turn this around. My desk won't be facing windows. Might even put some posters on the wall. We're gonna make it a fun show. We're gonna keep the action coming. We're gonna throw another giveaway out there for the next pay-per-view. But yeah, guys, take care. As always, you can find me on Twitter at MMA Fox, Lags at Danny_Lags. Drop a like and subscribe. Good luck on your bets this weekend. Peace, everybody.